With all the recent changes to the inheritance tax rules and the upcoming inheritance tax changes in 2027, when pensions will form part of your estate for inheritance tax purposes, it's now more important than ever to really understand your inheritance tax position, really assess your estate for inheritance tax purposes and start to understand some of the allowances that are available to you and some of the financial planning strategies that are available to you for inheritance tax purposes to hopefully reduce or even maybe eliminate any inheritance tax for your family. Inheritance tax is charged on your entire estate, the value of your estate, so that will be property, savings or investments, any life insurance policies that you have that aren't in trust, any other significant assets that you have. So you add up all of those assets, you can deduct any outstanding mortgages or outstanding credit card balances, reduce the estate by any charitable donations that you've made in the will perhaps, and then once you've come up to that net asset value, you compare that to the nil rate band, which is the £325,000 of assets that can pass without having to pay inheritance tax. If your estate comes under the 325,000, it means that there's currently no inheritance tax liability, although definitely keep that under review because with the thresholds being fixed till at least 2031 and with assets rising over time, property, investment prices rising over time, it might mean that you have an inheritance tax liability in the future. So definitely keep things under review. If you have assets over 325,000, you do potentially have an inheritance tax liability of 40% on assets above that 325,000. Now, relationship status does allow for a change to that situation. So if you're a single person, you do only get the 325,000, so it would be 40% on assets above the 325,000. But if you are a married couple, you can transfer your assets completely free of inheritance tax to the surviving spouse on first death. And indeed, if you don't use the nil rate band, the 325,000 nil rate band, that can transfer to on first death to the surviving spouse to be used on second death. So that's a combined £650,000 of nil rate band that can be used by a married couple potentially free of inheritance tax. It should be remembered that the unmarried couple still only get the single £325,000 each. In addition to the nil rate band, you also might potentially get the residence nil rate band, which is basically an amount of £175,000 per person on the family home that can be passed through to future generations tax-free. And similar to the nil rate band, on first death it can be transferred to the surviving spouse for the married couple. So that's a combined £350,000 of house effectively that can be transferred free of inheritance tax. The rules are quite specific around this, so the house has to have been lived in at some point as the family home. It has to transfer to direct descendants, which is usually children or grandchildren. And if you have a combined estate of over 2 million, the extra residence nil rate band starts to taper away. So because of all the changes to inheritance tax over the last year or so since Labour got into power, and the major change with pensions coming into inheritance tax just in 12 months' time, I thought it was really important to put on some face-to-face events so that I can go into a lot more detail in terms of financial planning strategies, financial planning that you can do to take action in the next 12 months to reduce or even perhaps eliminate the inheritance tax on your estate. You'll have a lot more opportunity at the events to ask me questions based on your own specific circumstances. We haven't covered kind of gifting here and perhaps trust planning, things like that. So there'll be ample opportunity to ask me questions at the events. They are very popular. They do tend to sell out quite quickly. So strongly recommend that you book your book your place. You can call us on 0117 3636 212 or email community@haroldstevens.co.uk to book your place. All of the details of the events are on the website haroldstevens.co.uk to get all the information, and I hope to see you there. If not, I'll join you at the next video. Okay, bye.